anything. Cool. Okay, shall I just fire away then, Greg?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it's you as well. So thank you so much for coming along tonight. What I thought I'd do is start off by doing just a really brief overview of Plastic Free Community, how it came about and how we started. I hope my emails aren't popping up on your
Rachel, if you start slideshow, that will share the full screen.
Okay, I've tried that before and it hasn't worked.
Oh, okay.
Right, let me try again. I'll just go into, if I can actually see it from slideshow. There we go. Is that gone bigger for you? Brilliant.
Yeah, okay. That's it. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I thought I'd start off with just explaining a little bit about Plastic Free Communities, how it started, what we're all about, and obviously how you guys fit into that. And then we can, and then open the floor up to questions. I often find with these things, it's actually more beneficial sometimes to have more time for the questions, because then you get the information that you really want to know rather than what I'm just going to tell you. But just for the background, Plastic Free Communities was conceived 3 years ago now. Well, it was a build-up of a lot of work, but it was launched 3 years ago, and it was originally launched in summer 2017 as the Wasteland campaign from Surfers Against Sewage. And Plastic Free Coastlines, as it was then, was part of that Wasteland campaign. And it came from the realisation and increasing evidence that we aren't going to beach clean our way out of the plastic pollution crisis. We really need to stop the problem at source. So Surfers Against Sewage came up with this programme which helped communities start that journey, and Plastic Free Coastlines was born within this Wasteland campaign, which was getting this idea across to everybody that actually we need to stop the plastic pollution at source. We need to stem the flow. So I've got the original campaign video here to show you, because we've kind of changed quite a bit of our branding since then as well. But I thought for some of you who haven't seen it, it might be really interesting to see where our roots are. And just for me, I really love this video. I just think it's great. So hopefully it's going to play. We're on to my next slide.
Sorry, are we meant to have sound?
Yeah, Rachel, there's no sound coming from it. I think
yeah. Oh, okay. I don't know why that's happened then, why it doesn't share the sound. So you can't really hear much of what it's saying then. It looks great though.
Rachel, if you stop sharing your screen.
Yeah.
And then press the screen share button again. Before you hit the actual screen you want to share, at the bottom left, there's a little tick box.
Oh look, you guys are pros. All of this is being recorded and everybody on YouTube is going to see how bad I am at Zoom. Right, okay, let's try again. Thank you. Right, I'll go back onto the presentation and go back into screen share, slideshow from the beginning. Right, let's try this again from the start. Okay, I'll put my sound back on. Right, hopefully you'll hear it this time.
We live in a dangerous time. A new superpower is rising in the Pacific. A country 5 times larger than North Korea is amassing the greatest chemical threat ever known. Yet its aggressive expansion is being ignored. Governments refuse sanctions, and leading corporations continue to profit from it. The battle for the Pacific has already been lost. The But this is just the start. Expanding its borders with the plastics we throw away, it threatens the entire planet. This is wasteland.
So that was the wasteland video, and that was the call to action, join the resistance. I don't know, can you still see me on screen there? If I show this, I have paused sharing. But these, if you can see them, were the original resources. So we had a toolkit and an individual toolkit, and people could sign up to either lead their community on the 5-step plastic-free coastlines plan, or sign up as an individual to take action in their day-to-day life. And the aim was that by 2020, we were going to have 125 communities across the UK who were working on this plastic-free coastlines vision. So I joined the team in February 2018 as a direct result of my work in Penzance, leading Plastic-Free Penzance to become the first town in the UK to get this accreditation from Surfers Against Sewage. And at that point, we already had around about, I think it was 80 to 100 communities who'd already signed up to this campaign within the first 6 months of it. So clearly there was public demand, and obviously all of this was happening around the time of Blue Planet. The Blue Planet edition that focused on plastic pollution actually went out the night before Penzance got its accreditation. So it was very much in the public domain, and people were becoming increasingly aware of the problem and wanted to know what to do. And here was this 5-point plan which showed them as a community or as individuals what they could do. And plastic-free coastlines, as it was then, just absolutely exploded to the point where we realised that we weren't just reaching coastal communities, we were reaching inland communities as well, and all sorts of different types of communities who wouldn't necessarily always engage with the beach clean, but who were recognising the problem of plastic pollution in our oceans. So we went through a bit of a rethink, and we rebranded as Plastic-Free Communities to reflect the fact that we had so many different types of communities taking part. And we've got to the point today where we've got almost 700 communities who are signed up on the scheme. We've got 115 of those communities are already accredited as plastic free. And we've got 3.5 coming up, maybe even nearer 4,000 businesses. I haven't looked at the latest stats actually. But we're between 3.5 and 4,000 plastic-free champions within that as well. So that's businesses who are actively looking to reduce their single-use plastic. So the next slide I've got you is the most up-to-date video I've got of where we're at now. And these stats obviously you'll see they're a bit different to what I've told you, but those are the latest ones you just got. So here we go. Sorry, next one. That's where we're at now. So you guys are part of that, a Plastic-Free Chesterfield. And what we're doing now is, what we're doing with the Plastic-Free Communities Network is, now that we've got this huge network across the UK, we're really trying to use that to deepen our work and to use that network as a national voice to call for change. So you'll notice through the work that Plastic-Free Chesterfield does locally, that you focus on your 5 steps in the toolkit, which is engaging your local council to ask them to support you and pass the Plastic-Free Communities motion. You're working with local businesses to encourage them to reduce their single-use plastics. You're linking up with community allies. You're linking up with schools, with churches, with local community centres, local organisations. You're putting on your awareness raising events, and you're also getting your steering group together to help guide your campaign locally. But as well as that, our plastic-free communities are increasingly taking part in national activations through Surfers Against Sewage. So during COVID, this particularly came to light, where we could all work as a national voice through digital activations like Return to Offender. Some of you might have taken part in that, where we couldn't get to do an actual community clean this spring, but what we could do is still raise awareness, and on our daily exercise, take photos of packaging pollution, take photos of it, tag the brands, tag it up, Return to Offender, and use that and gather all of those stats to put pressure on big industry to bring about change. So that's just an example of the kind of national campaign actions we're now rolling out across the network to help you guys not just have an impact locally and make a difference locally, but also to be able to feed into that bigger picture. So what you're doing in your community actually does put pressure on industry, it puts pressure on government. It calls for the supermarkets to make change through Less Plastic Please campaign. And all of your citizen science is contributing to our responses on policy, or it might be we want to, for example, the Environment Bill is coming up and we want to see some changes in that. So we'll use all of your citizen science to do that. So it's a really exciting campaign, and I'm super proud and blessed to be able to work on it, and with all of you guys in the communities who are doing incredible work. So just to go on to the topic of what we're going to be talking about a bit more focused tonight around plastic free and COVID. Obviously COVID came along and has upturned everybody's lives in one way or another. And obviously with that has come a return in some cases to single-use plastic. And I know that a lot of communities have been concerned about where does this leave them, what does it mean for the work that they're doing, not just in terms of delivering the toolkit when you can't get out in your communities easily and your council maybe isn't meeting as often, but also how to counteract the knee-jerk reaction for some people to return to single-use plastic. So that was what I was going to focus on tonight, and I thought at this point it would be more useful to open up the floor to questions, because then we can talk about your actual concerns in your area and the things that are coming up, and I can hopefully point you in the right direction, or if not, we can have a really good and positive discussion about it. I can't hear you, Greg.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm back. So yeah, thanks for that, Rachel. And I think if anyone has any questions, if you want to put the word hat into the chat box, we can invite you to join in, and then so if anyone's got any specific concerns about disposables at this time, if you want to put the word hat into the chat box, I'll take you, just so that it's not everyone shouting all at once. But yeah, I know that I had a question from a business in Chesterfield who were who I was speaking to, and they said that they normally they normally are trying to reduce the single-use plastic, but they were particularly concerned, and I'll just sort of read you what they said. They said based on the length of time the cafe and the has closed and the hardship both businesses, because they have two businesses in their shop, so and the hardship both businesses have faced during this pandemic, we are taking the necessary steps to keep our staff and customers safe and ensuring there's a business at the end of all of this. Until there is clear guidance from either the government, Public Health England, DEFRA and the Food and Drink Federation, we stand by our current safety measures of not accepting reusable containers at this time.
Okay, so yeah, so this is something that came up quite a lot at first, but it does seem to be alleviating because that guidance is coming through. And refill has never been banned. Businesses have never been told that they can't or shouldn't do it. The decision has been left with them. Now, the reality is that COVID, whether it's a refill item or a disposable item, COVID doesn't care, and the risk that COVID is all around us. There isn't anything that is COVID proof, so it's all around how you're managing the risk around that. Now, I don't know if any of you've seen the contactless coffee campaign, but I've uploaded the video, and that's just one example of how, when you think about the process of what's involved with refill and break it down, you can actually identify where the potential risk points are and work out what you can do to mitigate them. Now, the contactless coffee campaign is brilliant because actually it means there's no contact whatsoever. So you could argue it's better than a disposable cup, because actually nobody is touching the cup whatsoever. So what the advice, there's a brilliant article that was put up on the Surfers Against Sewage page, which actually tackles all these questions and points people in the direction of the government guidance. So as I say, refill, it's all about hygiene. So if your staff are wearing masks, and now we're all going to have to wear masks going into shops going forward, you are massively reducing the risk of this airborne virus, and that is the main way that it will be transmitted. There haven't been any cases yet, as far as the World Health Organization say, there haven't been any cases yet of the virus transmitting through food or food packaging. And it could transmit through surfaces, because obviously these it's going to fall, but it's actually a much lower risk than just breathing it in. And so wearing a mask is one of the best things that you can do to protect the people around you. And also then hygiene in terms of keeping surfaces clean. As long as staff are cleaning surfaces regularly, and we are keeping our refill cups clean, and we're using things like contactless refill, then actually there is no reason to shun in favour of
Sorry, Rachel. Can you just sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sorry. If you just want to carry on what you were saying.
But so with a business and refill, the best thing that we found that we can do in these conversations is say to them, look at what you do and break it down into a step-by-step process, and then look at what risks are involved and how you can mitigate them, and what's the best way you can do that to reduce your impact. Now, there might be some areas where single use is still needed, you know, and we're not saying that, you know, no single use whatsoever. It's also what a business is comfortable to do. But I think by breaking down that process, you kind of, you think a little bit more about what are the real impacts of what we're doing here. So another example, I did a recent Zoom, and there was a refill shop, and they were wondering about how do they reopen to the public at that point, because they weren't open, and if they could open. And there was another person on the call who had a local refill shop who'd got around this by they didn't have the scoops, so they basically, a customer came in and got their own scoop, did their refills with the scoops, and then the scoops went into a disinfectant, and that was how it worked. I've got a refill shop locally who you're not allowed in the shop, you don't do your own refills, so they have a table at the door, and you give your freshly washed containers, and the staff will do it. They wear gloves, they've got masks, they'll do your refills, and off you go. So it's lowering the risk again that way. So long way round, it's not banned, it is possible. It's looking at the staged process and how you maintain the hygiene in that process to enable it. I hope that answered the question. There are a lot of things for businesses to take into account, and businesses have had a really hard time. But this, you know, this can actually be, this can actually be a way that they can look at how they can save money and how they can come back from this and recover as best as possible in a way that works for the community and the planet as well. So it's a good, you know, I mean, I've had one business in Penzance that turned around and said actually this had been a cut-off point for them for disposable cups, and from this point onward they weren't going to do disposable coffee cups anymore because people were setting new habits. So it can go the other way, it can go a really positive way. And I think for us as community leaders and in our communities, it's being sensitive to the different pressures that people are under, and having the conversations and showing the different ways of doing things and working together to try and find out a way where everybody is happy and feels comfortable.
That sounds great. Yeah, no, I think that's really good advice. So Steph, do you want to come in? Because I know Steph runs a zero waste business on Chesterfield Market. So Steph, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I just wanted really to endorse what Rachel said. I spoke with the Chesterfield Environmental Health people on Friday of last week. As you know, I've during this COVID pandemic started selling food, and I went through my hygiene processes with her and how I serve customers on the market, and they were absolutely thrilled to bits, no issues whatsoever, which I see, you know, as a great endorsement and something we should be shouting about.
The reality is that none of the guidance has banned this, which is actually a bit of a win. You know, we would have been in a much worse situation had the government and had local environmental health say, actually, you can't do refill. Nobody has said that. They've said that you have to maintain the hygiene around it, but they have left the choice with the businesses. And I think that's possibly where the confusion has arrived, and maybe it hasn't been a strong enough message. I don't know, but it's, you know, it's something that is, as time goes on, people are, you know, in the initial shock around all of this and the initial reactions, it was quite understandable to see how people weren't sure what they should do, and maybe, and it is like a bit of a knee-jerk. You know, we have all been conditioned in a way to think that plastic is better, plastic is more hygienic, we're safer if we use everything plastic, we're safer if everything's wrapped in plastic. It's not necessarily the case, and there is also the argument that the research has shown that COVID actually lives much longer on plastic than it does on paper, on card. So if you are going to individually, this is a good one for bakeries, you know, if you are going to individually wrap everything, which some bakeries are going down that route, you don't have to do it in plastic, you could choose to do it in paper. So there are options within it as well, but I think because we're all in this big process of plastic is brilliant, that everybody knee-jerked to their default position that it's safer, it's more hygienic, and actually that doesn't have to be the case.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. I found your webinar very useful on that. You did
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Thank you for
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
We've had a bit more guidance since then as well, so that's all up on the website. So if you want to check in with that and get the latest, there's that's all up on the website.
Thank you.
That's brilliant. Yeah, thanks for that. And just to let you know, Rachel, I asked a question at the Chesterfield Borough Council full council meeting tonight to ask them whether they would be promoting reusable and refillable containers at the minute, because the council's already promoting reusable masks, reusable face coverings. And they're putting that out already in their local media messages, saying to go to the Plastic Free Chesterfield website, whether they can find a list of businesses that are selling reusable face coverings, and that's really great. And then I asked tonight whether they're going to be doing the same with promoting reusables and refillable containers, and they said yes, they will be doing that. So which is really great.
That's really good. I think, as I said, I think we're getting to the point now after the initial shock of all of this. And let's be honest, this is new to everybody, absolutely everybody. Nobody really knows much about this. So we're all on a journey through this together, but it's really good to see that as we're going through this journey, you know, the common sense is settling a little bit in terms of where are the actual risks and what can we do to mitigate our impact in dealing with this. It was great to see the government come out this week and say about reusable masks and encourage people to get reusable washable masks. I mean, that was really good. I just noticed a little comment in the sign about allergens with the different scoops for mixing product. I think it was like scoops, separate scoops for each bin rather than using the same scoop for everything else, because there's, you know, zero waste shops have got all of that to take into account as well. So I think out of all of the businesses in terms of refill and reuse, maybe they had one of the hardest jobs, but yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah. I just had a hat from Sonia. I don't know if Sonia, if you want to unmute yourself and want to if you want to come in. Yeah, you just click on and click on mute. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, no, I just wondered if you have specifically contacted all of your businesses again with a specific plan, you know, with specific guidance. Did you consciously get in touch with all of your businesses and reissue guidance, advice? Did you do that in a very strategic and deliberate way?
So this is me with my Penzance hat on now rather than my SAS communities hat. So I'll tell you which hat I'm wearing when I take it off and on. But in Penzance, that's what we did. So we used the Contact Coffee campaign, and we got that out very quickly as soon as I spotted it, got it out, and I emailed all of our plastic free champion businesses that do refill coffee and said, here's this brilliant way of doing it. Can you get back to me? Can you let me know? Are you still doing refill? If so, are you going to be joining the contactless coffee campaign? If you're doing that, can you tell everyone? Can you use the hashtag? And we'll tell everyone as well. And while you're at it, what are your plans for disposable cups going forward? Because we've already had we've got 4 businesses now in Penzance who are not going to buy disposable coffee cups in anymore. They're just only going to do refill. So I used it as a follow-on to say, and while I'm here, you know, are you looking at how are you getting on with phasing out disposable cups? And from that, I had a business come back and say that they were phasing out. And every single business got back to me, said that they were continuing refill. Those that had got rid of disposable cups were continuing not to use them. And they loved the contactless coffee campaign. And through that, businesses who were feeling nervous about it, I had a couple who'd gone back to disposables and were only doing disposables and were telling customers, actually, we're only doing disposables right now. That email gave them the information they needed to feel confident about refill, and they went back to offering refill. So yeah, if you've got something that you can focus on, it's just something that will give the businesses confidence that they can say, oh yeah, I can see how that would work. Just give them confidence they can still do what they were doing before. And from that, as we all know, as soon as it's the same thing, as soon as you sign one business up, the rest start to fall and the rest start to line up. It's like schools, as soon as ones go, they all start to go. So as soon as they start on that refill journey again, they start looking at the other stuff, and their mindset is back in that place, thinking, actually, how could I do this? Because, you know, so I don't know if there's something, you know, bags was another one, but, you know, that was one of the big things we saw backlash about, was the supermarkets handing out carrier bags in the online deliveries again. And we had quite a lot of people upset about that locally. And that's another simple one that you could say to shops, encourage people to use their reuse bags and get information out on your social media, just make sure you're washing them regularly. And that's another example of how that could actually be better, because you know exactly where your bag's been, you know how often it's been washed. You could use it instead of a basket if you're going in for a small shop. I know I do that in the supermarket, mainly because I'm lazy, not because of COVID, but I just have my bag and I fill it up, tip it out, pay it, and put it back in again. So there's lots of things you can focus on to start reinstilling that confidence.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I know that's something that I've struggled with, the plastic bags, because I'm kind of shielding myself. So like kind of getting the online deliveries, supermarket deliveries and things, you know, normally I would go out to the supermarket and take my own bags and things, and then because you're shielding, the option is that you do get the plastic bags, and that was a real issue for me right at the beginning of lockdown. That was something I really struggled with.
A lot of people did, and actually there's another way that you can actually turn this round to enable your campaign locally. So this is with my kind of, it's my SAS hat again. But that's an opportunity that people were so upset about all of the plastic carrier bags coming with their supermarket shop. You can point them in the direction of their local plastic-free champions who are doing local deliveries during COVID and are probably doing it with a lot less plastic. So you can start to build that trade. So you're starting to support your local high street recovery, which is the main thing at this time. Is like, we, you know, as plastic-free communities, as community leads, you've got a really cool position where you can actually use your campaign to help that high street recovery, because your plastic free champions have got a bit of a selling point and people are looking to do things a bit differently, and this has been a time when people have changed their habits a little bit. So things like the extra plastic in the supermarket delivery could be the pivotal point for some of your members of your communities to think, do you know what, I can get it from my local grocer with no plastic, I'm going to go to them and they're delivering as well. And you're starting to be part of that bigger community picture, that people, you know, people also don't forget who was there in times of need. So those local businesses who have really supported their community at this time, you know, they will hopefully won't be forgotten, and people will stick with them as we get back to whatever normal is going to look like going forwards.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. And Lacey, do you want to come in and unmute yourself?
Yeah, it was really what you just talked about. So you've answered it partly. It's the online deliveries, but I don't have an option of a small local grocery. I have to get them from a big supermarket, and they're not very keen to take the bags back.
No, yeah.
And they have collection points in the supermarket if you go there, but they're always overflowing, and I'm not sure that they actually recycle anything at all. I don't know.
Yeah, and this is why being part of a plastic-free community is again a really another positive way that you can get that voice back to the supermarkets, to government, to industry, through the Environment Bill about packaging, you know, end producer responsibility. And this is something that we are looking at. So the Less Plastic Please campaign, which is fully launching, it's the digital arm of Mass Unwrap. So, you know, we have Mass Unwraps where we, you know, you guys can go into supermarkets and highlight pointless plastic packaging and unwrap and talk to customers. The digital version of that was the online survey that we put out after that, but it all ground to a halt. We launched it literally the week that COVID hit, and it just wasn't appropriate to do it at that point for obvious reasons. But it is coming back later in the year, and all of that evidence will all go together, and we're going to be putting pressure on using that evidence to call on the supermarkets. Look, people want this. How are you going to enable people to do it? Because there are people like yourself, like Greg, who they don't have the option for as much as you would love to shop locally. Not everybody does have that option and is able to. So the supermarkets need to enable that as well. So yeah, that's why we roll out these national activations in they're supposed to be like every quarter. But during COVID, they've been every month, I think it feels like, because there's been so much that you can get involved with digitally and to keep the momentum. But yeah, so they will be these national actions that you can get involved with as a community to get that voice heard and say, we need change at this higher level as well as what we're doing. Help us, please.
Definitely. I'm going to bring Gordon in next. Gordon, if you want to unmute.
Yep. No, thanks, Greg. Just on this point of home deliveries, isn't there a potential solution this in terms of, you know, all the supermarkets have an excess of cardboard boxes to get rid of? Could they not package them into the cardboard boxes? And then ultimately that's less waste for them to get rid of, but in terms of an individual household, you just recycle that in your blue bin.
So pre-COVID, the supermarkets weren't as like they are now. You know, you could opt to not have it in plastic bags, and they would deliver it in reusable crates, wouldn't they? And just unload it on your kitchen table or whatever. And it's COVID that's seen this return to the carrier bag. So going forwards, you would like to think that they would go back to that reusable crate scheme. And also, it was encouraging to see today, I think that we about Tesco's trialling refills. Which is quite encouraging. All of the supermarkets have made pledges around this, and they are making progress. Whether it's fast enough or not is open to, but they are looking at this. So I think we will still see changes coming through. And yeah, to all of us, it seems really common sense, but why don't you reuse those boxes? But the supermarkets obviously have their reasons why that doesn't happen. And it's up to us to kind of ask those questions, find out why, and if it's a valid reason, let's work to find out what the solutions are for them and for us. One of the things that I found out during a Mass Unwrap once, which really frustrated and confused me, was that locally, if you have an online order of loose fruit and veg, it comes in a paper bag if you order it online. But if you go into the shop to buy loose fruit and veg, you have to put it in a plastic bag. And I couldn't get my head around that. So you've got all those paper bags at the back that you're packing up for online shoppers, and your staff are filling. But yeah, if you walk into the shop to do that, you can't use a paper bag. And they gave them to us for Mass Unwrap. They were great. I mean, my local stores are really supportive with Mass Unwrap. But the reason I found out is because we were doing Mass Unwrap, and they came out with this big pile of paper bags with Tesco all over them for people to put their fruit and veg in. And I was like, brilliant, this is amazing. Where have you got these from? And then they told me, and I was like, okay. So it's just little things like that we can actually, you know, start to push on those questions, because some of the things aren't very difficult really. But I think COVID has obviously changed things a little bit, and in mindsets. But we'll get there.
Great, thanks. Peter, do you want to unmute yourself? Come in next.
Hello, hi. Could you tell me how Penzance got its badge of a plastic-free badge? Or what did it have to, what criteria had to be met? Because I'm sure it's not plastic-free.
No. So plastic-free communities is about reducing single-use plastic. It's all about starting that journey. So the plastic-free accreditation is the name of the campaign, and it's the name of the accreditation, but it's the first step. So it shows that a community has laid the foundations that it needs to lay to be able to really start that work and build on that work within a community. So plastic-free communities is all about tackling single-use avoidable plastic, and it's a 5-step plan. So this is what the guys at Plastic Free Chesterfield are working on. So the first step is to engage with your local council, and this is what we had to do in Penzance to get the accreditation. The first step is to engage with your local council and get them to pass the Plastic Free Communities motion. And in that motion, they pledged to phase out single-use plastic in their own premises and operations. They pledged to support all plastic-free initiatives locally, and they pledged to have a member of their council on your steering group. So there you've got the backup, the kind of organisational authority backup you need to be able to start make stuff happen in your community. The second phase, the second step, was to get local businesses on board, and the number depends on the size of your population. And you have to sign up these, what we call plastic free champions. And to be a plastic free champion, the business has to have removed at least 3 single-use plastic items from the business, but they need to have a plan in place. They need to have identified the rest and have a plan in place as well. So we need to see their proposed actions. So that's what the businesses work on. And again, the number will depend on the size of your community. For the community allies, again, the number depends on the size of your communities, but we need to see an even split of, this is the way that you reach all the different parts of your communities and different groups and different demographics. So it's linking up with your schools, as I said before, your churches, community venues, libraries, youth groups, other environmental groups, anyone who's working with the community in your community can be a community ally. And the idea is they help you spread the word. So they take action themselves and pledge to get rid of 3 single-use plastic items, but they also support you in the campaign. So they might hold an event for you for free, or they might distribute individual action plans for you, or they might give you a venue that you can hold an event in, and they'll raise money, and they'll supply something for you, like they might supply a banner or something like that. So that's all about spreading the word in your community. You need to hold at least 2 events or community actions in your community in a calendar year. So that can be a beach clean, a community clean, a mass unwrap. It could be a film night. It could be an awareness night, a festival, all sorts of different things come under that. And the last step that you need to show that you've done is set up a steering group, which is a group of local stakeholders who then work together to build on those foundations to take the campaign forward. And we recommend you have on that, as well as your town council member, you have your local business rep, a local tourism rep if it's relevant, a local environmental group, or an expert, somebody who represents schools, and you can all work together on how you as a community take this forward. So once you've got that accreditation, that's when you really start to deepen that work. So you increase the number of businesses and allies and events, you hold those events, you get more people involved, but that's how you then tap into these bigger SAS campaigns to have that bigger influence across the whole UK, and use that influence. And we also, there's also actions about linking in with your local MP and just building on that work. And within it, it gives you the flexibility to look at what you need locally. So in Penzance hat on again, we recognised that the businesses were working to try and reduce their plastic footprint, but they couldn't control what was coming in terms of packaging. And a lot of this packaging isn't recyclable. So, and a few had started to informally between them. So we identified actually there's opportunity here for PackSwap PZ, where we've got a hub now where businesses take all their plastic packaging and it's available to the community to reuse for free. So we're keeping that packaging in a loop in the community rather than people buying in and using more. And you know, as more plastic-free packaging solutions come online, maybe that won't be needed as much, but it is at the moment. So we identified that as a standalone project we wanted to get off the ground post-accreditation. So that's what all of the communities across the UK initially worked to, that 5-step plan. And then in phase 2, they look at deepening that work and how to make some real inroads locally and nationally.
Thanks, Rachel. Peter, did you want to come back on that?
Yes, please. Thank you. Firstly, I work for a council, a Derby City Council, and as a climate coordinator. So what I'd like to do is to further this discussion, and maybe you've got a document you could send me, or Greg has got a document to send me, focusing particularly upon the council. And also what we'd like to do is to pull you in for some sort of online meeting with, I'm not sure with who, but I would have thought that the catering people would be good people amongst the others.
Okay, yeah, so I'll have a look as well to see if you've got any communities near you in Derby that you can link up to.
Well, we know that we know the communities very well. No, some of them very well.
Oh, the plastic-free communities?
No, I don't. But there was a plastic. We had some youngsters doing a talk on that in the Quad Cinema a few years ago. But yes, I'll be very interested in that. And also, I'm interested if is anybody on this panel who might be who lives in Derby or near Derby, who might be interested in putting some energy into this, because it, you know, in order to get it off the ground, we need the buy-in. But I reckon we could get a buy-in across the city. You know, the people have different passions, and this might motivate people who aren't necessarily that involved otherwise, especially kids. You know,
yeah. And we found in Chesterfield the school kids get really on board, and they kind of want to get involved, and they want to do litter picks, and they're like, you know, they want to do the supermarket the mass unwrap, and you know, so kids do get really on board with this. Obviously primary schools, but we have seen secondary school kids as well kind of particularly concerned about plastic pollution in their school, and they're concerned about plastic in their catering, in the school catering and things, you know. So we are seeing there's a lot of sort of young people and a lot of kids kind of really concerned about plastic is a big issue, I think, for kids.
Plastic Free Schools is an incredibly popular programme that Surfers Against Sewage run as well. It runs alongside within, like Plastic Free Communities and Plastic Free Schools work very closely together, and actually your community allies actions will involve signing up schools to the Plastic Free Schools programme, because it's the easiest way to get schools involved. I mean, you can do your own stuff. Some communities choose to do their own stuff, but we recommend they sign them up to Plastic Free Schools, A, because it's less work for the community lead, and B, because the school, we know then that the schools are working on a really comprehensive and effective plastic free programme. And the beauty of Plastic Free Schools is it actually empowers the kids to take action and teaches them some really cool campaigning skills from quite an early age, so that they grow up knowing that it's okay to stand up for something that for something that you believe is right, but also some of the skills and the tools they need to be able to do that, which personally I think is invaluable for the next generation. So as a council, I don't know how much control you still have over your schools, but that would be a really good and quite simple and easy first action, is to get Plastic Free Schools out to all of the schools in your area and encourage them to get involved.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to talk to Peter, because I know Peter, so I'm more than happy to talk to Peter about kind of what we've done and how we've done it and things as well, so that's fine. But I know we're kind of coming out to 8 o'clock, but I know Brenda had a hat. I don't know if Brenda wants to come in.
Okay, hi everyone. Yeah, it was just really, I was sitting there thinking about how things have gone during lockdown, and perhaps had a little bit more time to investigate things than we usually have had in our lives. And recently I saw the film, The Story of Plastic, and I would really recommend anybody who has not seen that film, do try to see it, because it really helped me to understand how the big petrochemical industry is at the bottom of all of this. And as they see their sales falling, which is a good thing, of petrol and diesel and aviation fuel and etc., they're looking for new markets. So they are the ones who are pushing a lot of stuff onto us that we're fighting against and trying to keep off. And just as, you know, today, Loop is just like another example of that. There are things about Loop that are good, but on the other hand, it's full of products from those very companies that are hand in glove with these petrochemical giants. And, you know, there's a really big picture thing going on here. And I'm sure there'll be people in the meeting tonight who got involved with the recent online lobby through Climate Coalition, and speaking to our local MPs about this and bringing up plastics and a whole range of climate related stuff, because the plastics issue and the climate issue are actually part of the same problem. They're not separate, and I don't know, it's just like I've had so many light bulbs go on these last few weeks.
Oh, you could do my job, Brenda. You've summed that up perfectly. But yeah.
And so, yes, we do all this stuff at micro level, at community level, but if any of us have time to start just looking a little bit further afield, my goodness, it's massive.
Yeah. And that's why, you know, that's why linking into that bigger picture, being part of this wider SAS campaign is actually really valuable and vital, because actually we do need to do everything that we can do as individuals, as communities, as local councils. We need to do all of that, but actually the change needs to happen right at the top, and it's the pressure on those handful. It's literally a handful of companies that are driving this, as we've, you know, and inextricably linked to climate emergency. So the story of plastic was actually rolled out to our plastic-free communities a couple of months ago with free screenings. So I'm not sure if the opportunity is going to come around again, but there are other organisations who are still screening it. So maybe Google it and see if you can hop onto a screening of it, because it is a real eye-opener. And COVID has given this industry the best excuse ever, you know, or the best reason ever. And there's a very good Greenpeace report that you could read around this, around how industry tried to push carrier bags in the USA around COVID and was called out for a lot of accurate information around it. So that link is in. I sent that link to you, Greg, in a community lead pack. You could share that on your social media so everybody could read it. But it's very, very interesting reading.
Definitely. Okay, does anyone else have any other questions? Because I know yeah, we're kind of coming up to 8 o'clock. Does anyone have anything else? Because Rachel's been working all day. Jackie, do you want to come in?
Yeah,
do you want to
hi.
unmute? Yeah.
Oh yeah, thanks. Hi, I just put it in the chat because I just wanted to ask, if we want to get our schools on board, I feel as though, will they feel enough pressure, you know, going back in September with having to look after the children? How will we ask them to do that? I feel I don't want to pressure them because they're going to have enough on their plate, but we do want our schools on board in Wrexham.
You're going to have some help. So in the autumn, we've got quite a big activation, as we call it, coming up, and working with the schools is going to be part of that, because they are going back in September. And so yeah, there's going to be a host of activities that the whole country can get involved with, but we'll be rolling out to communities and communities obviously specifically within that to get involved with, and linking up with your local schools will be included in that. So you will get some help around that. And I think it's self-led by the school, and there isn't actually any deadline on it. So schools as well, by the time they get to September, you know, I mean, who knows where we're going to be in September, you know, but hopefully they are all going back and they have got all of the measures in place. And the Plastic Free Schools programme fits in with the curriculum. So there are lots of reasons why a school, it's still really valuable and not actually onerous for a school to still take part in it at this moment in time. And actually, there could be an argument that actually right now is a really good time for schools to take part in it, because there is this kind of, you know, sense around single-use plastic and it's being used more and kids are seeing it around them more and they don't want it. So it's, yeah, there's lots of tools within that could be really positive at this time for schools. So are you part of a plastic-free community, or?
We are, and we've got a few businesses on board, but I've approached the schools and we were going to do a few before lockdown, but of course lockdown happened. Yeah. But now I just feel hesitant to go back and ask them when I know they're going to be so busy.
Yeah, yeah.
But should I send a preliminary email or?
Yeah, or you could, yeah, you can do. Or do you want to drop me a line at rachel@sas.org.uk, and we can chat through, because this is more of a specific kind of community lead question. We can chat through a bit more, and I can tell you a bit more about what's happening in September, and that should hopefully give you enough kind of information to feel you can do it in an appropriate way. So yeah, drop me a line, we can chat offline.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I know our schools lead. She's already got a couple of meetings booked with schools in September already, so that's really good. So ready for when they start again. She's got some meetings lined up ready for September, so that's really good that we're kind of at that position. So yeah,
there's some great positive. I think, you know, and I've been guilty of it as well, of thinking, oh no, it's all going to come crashing down. But there's these great positives that actually come out of it, and you start to see, to pivot things and see them in a different way and see where the opportunities are. I don't like to say, I don't have conversations about, you know, opportunities to come out of COVID, because it's been an awful thing for an awful lot of people, but actually it is an opportunity to pivot the way we look at things and the way that we're looking at our plastic-free communities, and what the benefit and the value of that our plastic-free communities are to the communities that we're within. So yeah, I think it's a great time to be thinking, as Brenda was saying, thinking about the bigger picture and how we fit into that, and what we can do locally and appropriately sensitive to our own community and what's going on around us.
Yeah. And are you happy for me to put your email in the chat? Is that all right?
Yeah, but for community leads, if that's okay. If you're a member of the general public and you've got a question, if you could send it to plasticfreecoastlines@sas.org.uk. That's the main email. And Quilly, who works on the campaign, can answer. Generally signed up to the campaign, get resources out to you, have those initial conversations. If you've got a specific community lead question specific to your area, then you can drop me an email on the Rachel at email.
Yeah. Okay. Laura, do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
Laura, do you just want to come in to utilise Rachel while she's here? Do you want to unmute, Laura?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Oh, I just feel like I'm losing battle.
I think your internet's not great, Laura.
There was no reason why this school couldn't. I'll leave it. Okay, I'll leave it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you can always get in touch. There's the email that I've put on there.
I think I can see. Is your question here, Laura? Are you working in a Chesterfield school that's stocking up big time bottled water for the children? Is that you? Do you want to just unmute?
Yeah, that's Laura. Yeah.
Yes. Right. Okay. People take an easy option. Yeah. So yeah, and this is you know, I hear other stories about children being told to take in a pack of single-use antibacterial wipes so that they can continually be wiping their things like this. So yeah, again, it's just a case of having those conversations and showing that actually refill is fine, and showing that, you know, that if the child has got a single-use bottle of water, it's the same as having a refill bottle at this end of the day, about where that bottle might end up, who might be touching it. With kids, you know, who knows who's touching what exactly. So it's about having those conversations about what are they worried about, what are the risks, what are the perceived risks, what are the real risks, and right, okay, well, how do you mitigate that? And actually, is it better for children to have their own bottle, where their parents know where that bottle's been, their parents know that bottle's clean, the kid keeps it in their bag, they keep it with them at all times, so that bottle is their bottle, rather than a single use being stored, handled by members of staff, possibly handled by other members of kids. Because with single use, again, there's this perception, there's the World Health Organization says in its guidance to staff who work in food businesses that actually they don't recommend gloves, because they find that people aren't as on it with hand hygiene. It gives this false sense of security. and that people don't actually change their gloves as often and are not washing their hands often enough because they've got the gloves on. So this could be a similar thing that goes on with single-use disposable items. We're lulled into this false sense of security that it's safer because it's disposable, we get it and chuck it away. But actually, what are the processes we're going through with that item? How are we touching it? How are we picking it up? Where have it been? How are we using it? And actually, when you look at it that way, what's the difference in a school between having their own refill bottle that they keep for them, or having a pile of used bottles in the corner? You know, there will be so many scenarios like this that people taking different approaches and different ways of doing things. And unfortunately, as community leads, we're faced with all sorts of curveballs as well, and it's just unpicking it and breaking the process down. But again, with anything like that, if any community leads are having specific problems around this and do want a bit of a conflab about, right, what's the different way of thinking about this and how can I approach this, I'm more than happy to help.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that was a really good point you made about it is definitely better for them to have that reusable, because then they're just keeping it there themselves. So I think that's a great idea, and it's a really good opportunity to really push that reusable message going forwards. You know, to sort of especially in schools anyway.
I mean, again, you know, I'll say what I said right at the beginning. Nothing is COVID proof. Nothing is, you know, none of us can say, right, if you do that, you'll be fine. None of it, we can't. It's choosing the option that has the less impact.
Definitely.
And obviously.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great. So yeah, I think we're coming to the end. We were kind of saying about we really want to try and get this hashtag choose to reuse kind of trending in a minute, because you know, it's so important. And I think like it feels like at this point in time, like where they're talking about, you know, making face masks mandatory and things, I feel this is a really good opportunity for us to use this time, like, you know, to really push for the reusable message and things, because it, you know, this is a big issue. Everyone's talking about it, you know, like you really got to kind of sort of utilize this any opportunity you're given, really, you know. So when they're talking about it on the news, and when they're talking about it on Twitter, and when they're talking about it on the Facebook forums and things, it's such a great opportunity to use this point to sort of say, oh, you know, did you know, you can use your reusable masks and things, and isn't it better for the disposable medical grade masks to be used for the medical staff in the hospitals, and better to be used for them rather than you going out to Poundland and buying a disposable, you know, mask that's just going to sort of litter the streets and potentially get into the ocean. So yeah, so it's such a good opportunity, I feel, for us at the minute.
City to See, their website has got some great choose to reuse information on it around contactless coffee. They obviously run the Refill UK scheme, so they've got links to refill and how to do all of that. They've touched on PPE, they've got things around that. But also, I mean, when we were all in lockdown and people did have to look a little bit at habits, and like shelves were empty in the supermarkets, things like reusable sanitary products, reusable nappies, you know, things like that were, you know, they've got some great information on there as well. Like their plastic-free periods work is really good. So it's a good opportunity to point people in that direction as well. And so that there was a prime time where I think people were quite open to that during lockdown, where people didn't want to go out as much, they didn't want to shop as much, they didn't want to be creating so much waste at home, and it was an opportunity to try these different things, knowing that you weren't going out. So if it didn't quite work for you, or you know, or it didn't quite work for your baby, it doesn't matter, you can try something else, and you're at home to be able to try these things out. So City to See are good to share some tips and things around that as well.
Definitely. Yeah, no, and that's great. There's some really good stuff coming out. So yeah, I'll just post that. But yeah, thanks so much, Rachel, for joining us tonight, and it's been really great. There's lots of, I think it's a really relevant time. Like I said, it's a really relevant time for all this at the minute. So it's a really good opportunity for all of us all over the country to kind of utilize this time to really push for reusables. So, because there's that, I just love that phrase, like, while coronavirus doesn't care, the planet sure does. And so, yeah. You know, that it's we know that, and it's going to be a relevant issue going forwards, at least for the next 6 months. We know there could be a second wave and things, you know, so we know this is going to be a real issue going forwards over the next sort of 6 months to a year. So it's a really good opportunity to keep pushing the reusable message.
Yeah, we've got a kind of a bit of a respite as everything gets back up and running. Yeah, it's a good time because we don't know, you know, we could be going in and out of this for a while, who knows. But I've put some links up in the Zoom chat to a couple of the SAS articles that I mentioned. So the first one is got all of the links to the government guidance and WHO guidance and various different bits of science to with the kind of the sorry, I'm starting to lose the ability to speak around refill and reuse. So to give your community and businesses the confidence that actually you're fine to do refill and reuse. So that's the first article. The second article is something that went up today, which is the start of the return of Less Plastic Please. And this is all about how you can reduce single-use plastic through shopping and through your individual actions. So that's a nice one to share in the community as well. And just for your own personal interest, you know, there's some good links in both of those articles.
That's brilliant. Yeah, yeah, it sounds really good. I probably will send an email around to all the people who registered on this talk as well, with some links as well. You know, we'll save the chat, and this will all be available for people to kind of go back to and have a look at. So I look forward to reading more about the Less Plastic Please and joining in all of this and take it and enjoying the rest of Plastic Free July. So yeah. Good stuff.
I really got myself a stainless steel safety razor. Too scared to use it. I'm sure I'll get used to it. I got my daughter one as well, so to train her as well. And
brilliant. Yeah, it's all good changes. So excellent stuff. Right, thank you so much, Rachel, and thanks so much for everyone for joining. It's been really good to have you here. So thanks a lot. And yeah, next month we got a really nice talk from a local river clean charity in Chesterfield, talking about the work that they're doing to clean up Chesterfield's rivers and streams, to kind of rid it of plastic and to clean up and make sure that the rivers are all nice and clean for wildlife and rewild all our streams and rivers. So that'd be really nice. That's going to be on the 19th of August. So we'll send details around that as well. But thanks a lot for joining.
thank you for having me.
Great. No worries. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.
In a taxi. Tonight, you and I